All right, good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good.
My name is Ari Weinstein. It's pronounced Ari, rhymes with safari, so that's pretty easy, hopefully. Today, I'm very pleased to present to you this workshop about developing and using your personal brand on LinkedIn. If you don't know what a personal brand is, don't worry, we will cover that. If you're not sure what LinkedIn is, don't worry, we will cover that too. I'm here to answer all of your questions and to familiarize you with LinkedIn, which is the best platform on which to make professional connections, on which to connect with employers, with other professionals, with experts in your industry or in fields that interest you, and even with entrepreneurs and other business owners. So whether you're looking for a job or starting a business, LinkedIn is a great place to be. But more importantly, you're going to learn not just about LinkedIn, because this class is not just about LinkedIn. It's about how to show up on LinkedIn or anywhere else in a way that makes people interested in what you do and what you have to offer. Okay? So, let's start with introductions. I'm giving myself 5 minutes to do introductions, but if it takes a little longer, that's okay. So again, I'm Ari Weinstein. I am a full-time career development coach, and my specialty is personal branding, basically helping people show up in various formats on various media so that they can succeed in their career. So for example, I help people practice for job interviews, because an interview is a place where you show up and have to showcase yourself. I help people with their resumes, because a resume is a document that represents your work experience. I help people talk about themselves and introduce themselves in networking events. So that's what I do. I'd love for each of you to introduce yourself, tell me your name, tell me where you're from, and tell me something interesting about yourself, whatever you want. Let's see if we can go around the room. Why don't we start with you?
Good morning. My name is Leonel. I'm from Ecuador, and I just moved to Newburgh 2 years ago.
Welcome.
I'm still, I have my own business. I do construction.
Okay.
Construction company
Great.
in the city. I'm trying to get some jobs here, but I'm still don't have the connections and networking in this area. So I'm still commuting to the city. And I get into this program because I think it's very necessary now, to, as you say, to show up, to get involved in technology so I can get more customers, do resumes, projects.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm very glad to be here and learn something like this. I heard about LinkedIn, but I never had never got my attention to put myself into it. But
Okay.
it's a good opportunity now to.
Yeah, don't worry, we will show you that, and hopefully this class will be helpful to you. So,
Your business construction is yours?
Yeah.
yeah, very good. Yeah, there you go. You're a business owner. We can talk about that.
Yes. My name is Maria Sanchez, and I moved to New York like about 10 years ago. And I've been working different type of works, like because I used to do like was travel to the city working downtown.
Right.
Because I was doing business, beauty science business.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing another things over here, and I heard about this program over here, and I think it's improving my life in many ways. That's why I come in here to see about what I can learn.
Great.
And thank you to be here.
Oh,
All right?
sure. Yes. Thank you, Maria. Pinky, go ahead. See, I know you already, so.
Thank you.
I know, right? Everybody puts me on the spot. That's why I tell my son when I get home. He's like, Mom, everybody put you on the spot. My name is Pinky Stewart. I was born and raised here in Newburgh, and I live in New Windsor. I have, thank you for being here. I do have my own business with Avon, and my other second business I do with soap. And
I work from home and stuff there, and but since the COVID, I used to have a lot of clients
When you will speak, you'll
and
speak
give out my,
Speak up.
my business cards and stuff there. So I had clients from here to there, and I love what I do. So next month on the 3rd, I'll be in my business for 4 years, and it's gonna be my 6th war
Awesome.
from my boss, so we always go out for lunch. So I love what I do, and I have my own office at home, and I have a workshop at home too. So I love what I do. And then I brought to show the class is what I. So this is one of the flowers I did. So people been buying flowers from me. So
Nice.
I usually charge them like about $5 or $10. And
Nice.
so this is the little. That's why my son always say, "Mom, take a break." So this is like a little book. So I bought the fabric from the dollar store and a flower. So this is the little book I made, part of my business. And then I put the little flowers in it.
Nice.
So I just want to bring the short to the class.
Thank you, Pinky.
You're welcome. And yesterday I was here, so I did my own business cards.
All right. We can talk about business cards. Nancy?
My name is Nancy Celis. I come from Mexico City. I got a degree in graphic design over there, but I got that done 20 years ago. I came to the United States. I was not allowed to work, so I've been working in a restaurant. The restaurant was sold this year in February, so new owner didn't allow me to stay. So I'm working at the school district at the cafeteria, but of course I'm not happy doing something that is not giving me
Right.
money. And I know I got a degree that I haven't used, and everything changed already. Technology changed already. When I did the graphic design, everything was done by hand. Now everything is by computer.
Yes.
So that's when I'm taking these classes. Just to
Okay, great.
take
Well, there are graphic designers on LinkedIn, so you may be able to find some people who can help you and people who you would enjoy following. So.
Okay, my name is Jose Light. I live in New. I just come to know something, to learn something more about technology and improve.
Great.
I know.
Good.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Thank you.
Lifelong living. I have 3 children, 23, 15, and 9. I've been a stay-at-home mom for like 10 years now. And now that they're older, I'm starting, to live my life. So I'm going to start a business for myself. So I'm very grateful for you to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's where I am.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I want to reassure you that you can ask questions at any time. Raise your hand, ask me to repeat myself if I'm not clear, if something's not understandable, just let me know. I will also tell you that LinkedIn is one of the large technology platforms in the world. We'll actually show some statistics later. The recent report from Microsoft, which owns LinkedIn, is that there are over 900 million people on the platform. They expect to hit 1 billion at the end of the year. So it is a very large platform, and it's technology for sure, but you don't need to be technical to use LinkedIn, and I will show you that, okay? It's not difficult, and it's a great place to be. LinkedIn really is not so much about technology or companies, it's about people. Okay, how did I do? Not bad. All right. One last thing I'll say about myself is that I live in Windsor. Now, my son was born here in Newburgh. So, yeah, and my family and I have been here in the Hudson Valley for Well, this is our 18th year, so yeah, our kids are being raised here and going to school here. Any questions before we jump in? Any burning questions? No problem. If you think of something, let me know. I might repeat the question because we're recording this class, so if I don't, if you're not speaking loud enough for this microphone, I might repeat the question, okay? All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is personal branding. Because the title of this workshop is Developing and Using Your Personal Brand on LinkedIn. But you might not know what that is. Does anybody want to guess or does anyone think they know what personal branding means?
What do it mean?
This branding is like brand, so it's like about you, showing out and putting the spotlight.
Yep. Well, let me give you my definition. So as you saw on the cover of the slides, I'm not shy. I wrote a book about this. I came up with my own definition of branding. And this definition works whether you're branding your business or branding yourself. Branding is the impression you make on others. That's it. If you have to remember one word in this definition, it's impression. It's the impression you make. That's it. That's the simplest explanation. Now, what qualifies me to come up with a definition for branding? Well, I was a brand developer for 30 years. Nancy, I have a degree in graphic design, and I had a long, successful career as a designer. I'm now retired from that career, and I coach and teach full-time. So I wondered when I started switching from doing graphic design and commercial branding to helping people with their own brands, what does branding for companies have in common with branding for people? That's the answer. That's the answer. Any brand at all is simply an impression that we want to leave with others. Personal branding is not about you. Some people have heard the term personal branding in connection with influencers or celebrities. Some celebrities and influencers, people who have big audiences on social media, talk about having a personal brand, and you think, oh, well, they're famous, right? It's not about being an influencer. You don't need a big audience to have a brand. You also don't have to be a business. So Lionel, you're going to learn about branding, but this is branding about you. Yes, there's branding for your business, but we all have a brand. We'll get into that. So the next thing to know, if you agree with my definition that branding is the impression you make on others, then it follows that you already have a brand. Why is that? Because you're always making an impression. The moment you show up in front of somebody or talk to somebody or introduce yourself or become seen by someone, you're making an impression. We all form impressions of each other. That's just part of how we function as humans. So you already have a brand. Part of what we're going to learn today is how to become aware of your brand. What is your brand? And most importantly, how to become intentional. LinkedIn is a tool that lets you be intentional with your brand. It lets you say what you want to say about you. Okay? It lets you showcase work that you want to show. For example, Pinky could take pictures of her flower creations and post those on LinkedIn. Say, here's what I do. Now,
I have it on my phone.
you have it on your phone, yeah. So you'll be able to upload it to LinkedIn. Now, you could use Instagram, you can use Facebook. LinkedIn is not the only platform on which to showcase your brand, but I would argue it's the best platform for those of us who want some sort of economic gain. We want to sell something or buy something or become known to a company or get a job.
It's more for like a business and more not for fun or entertainment. It's more like
Great question. So Leonel asked, is LinkedIn more for business and less for entertainment? Yes. But just because it is for businesses doesn't mean that there isn't fun on the platform. So I'll show you, if we have time, I'll show you a fun video that I posted on LinkedIn on last week on Star Wars Day. So what you want to do with your brand, with that impression that you make on others, is you want to shape it to make the impression you want. And we're going to show you how to do some of that today. So, wow, so that didn't take long. So let's go back here for a second and ask you if you have any questions about personal branding. Was this clear, or did this leave you with more questions than answers? Pretty clear? Okay. So branding is the impression we make on others, and you already have a brand. Let's talk for a minute about the first point here, about becoming aware of your brand. Let me ask you all a question. How would you know what kind of impression you're making on other people? How would you know? Any ideas? Go ahead and raise your hand or speak. Sorry, Jenny, repeat that? Yes, yeah, you could. Yes, yes. Any other ideas?
Feedback.
Excellent. Nancy, yes, that's a great technique. Feedback. Ask people, what kind of impression am I making? Right? What impression have I made on you? If you've worked with different people, for example, you worked at a restaurant and maybe you worked some other jobs, it's okay to go back to the people you worked for, even if you're no longer working for them, and say, hey, can you tell me a few words about what it was like to work with me? Right? What did customers say about me? Right? And
comments that people say about you.
yeah, exactly. Yes. And sometimes we see things, people say things about us that we're not so happy with. That's okay. Those things that you're not happy with don't have to be part of your brand. The idea of branding is to take control, to be in charge of, to be intentional, right? To say, I know what kind of impression I want to make, right? So, Nancy, I'm going to use you as an example. You were working in restaurants, but you perhaps want to go back to doing graphic design. Would that be correct? Maybe?
Maybe working at administration, data entry, whatever it makes sense.
Or maybe you want to use some of the skills you're learning here at the Tech Academy to do data entry, to sit at a desk instead of standing, and of course restaurant work is hard. You're standing all day. So maybe you'd like a job in an office, right? So you can shape your brand to communicate that. You can express what it is that you want to do. That is part of your brand. We'll go into that a little bit more. Now, another way to figure out the impression you make is not just through feedback, but also to just think about yourself. What do you think is the impression you've made? Right? So you don't just have to listen to people. You can say, well, I try to make an impression of being very friendly. Well, I'm talking about myself here. I try to come across as being very friendly. And then you have a word that you can use. You can say, I try to be friendly. So now you can, instead of asking for feedback and just people saying whatever they want, you can say to people, am I friendly? When we work together, did I come across as friendly? And people might say, oh no, Ari, you're like very serious all the time. I mean, I'm not saying you're not friendly, but I think you're serious. So the word friendly and the word serious, these are adjectives in the English language, right? They're words that describe things. You can start listening to those adjectives, and that will tell you a little bit about the impression you want to make. But it's okay to start with your own adjectives, right?
Sometimes I ask my employees, how do you feel working with me? Because
That's very good.
Myself, Because
Yes.
I did mistakes in the way. Sometimes it was, oh, I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't talk in this way. And I asked, I'm sorry, I apologize when I have to. And then I asked them, like, how do you feel working with me? And they gave me the comments, and I accepted, even if they were negative or positive.
Yes, exactly. So that's a great, first of all, it's a great thing that you're doing. Because the problem is we don't all walk around with a mirror in front of us. If I walked everywhere with a mirror in front of me, well, first of all, I'd crash into things. But second of all, that would be pretty distracting. I want to pay attention to people, not to myself. So it's hard for us as humans to know how we're coming across. So you seeking feedback is great. But Lionel said something very important. He said, when it comes to negative feedback, listen to it. It's okay. You might learn something. It might be hard to hear. But these days, so I teach other classes, and I ask all of the people I work with. For example, last month I gave a lecture at Northwood University in Michigan. It was a virtual lecture, so I didn't have to travel. But I asked the head of career services. The head of career services at the university is the person that I interacted with the most. I asked her after the class, how did I do? Please give me critical feedback. In other words, please tell me something that didn't work. And that's really valuable because you can learn from that. So that's personal branding. Let's just repeat that branding is the impression you make on others. Most people are familiar with brands from companies. We're all surrounded by brands, right? Hey, I'm looking at a bunch of Dell computers. That's a brand. The library has a brand. The Newburgh Free Library, it has that Swish logo on your mouse pads. But you don't have to be a business to have a brand. And branding doesn't mean that you're trying to become famous. You don't need to become famous. You don't need to be an influencer. So those are two misconceptions about branding. And you already have a brand. Okay. So the next topic is LinkedIn. In my opinion, and it's just an opinion, LinkedIn is the perfect platform for a personal brand. I'm going to try to convince you why that is, but I'd love your ideas, especially if you're currently using other social media platforms. I'd love for us to have a discussion about that, about where you're finding success, because many people find success on LinkedIn, but some people might find success on Instagram. For example, maybe Instagram is better for graphic designers or photographers. Pinky, you had a comment.
On my Instagram, I have my Instagram for my business.
Mm-hmm.
When I take a picture of it, it's on my Instagram. And I have my own YouTube channel.
Excellent. Okay. YouTube, that's another good platform.
So I have my YouTube channel and my Instagram
Okay.
for my business.
And do those work for you? Are you able to show what you want
So when I take a picture, it works for me and stuff there, and then I get a lot of people testing me like that. And then for my YouTube channel, I have my video on doing my workshop and stuff on my journey and stuff there.
Very good. So that's good to know. So that's something we can keep in mind as I show you LinkedIn. If you're familiar with other platforms like Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube, you can think about the differences and ask me any questions about what the difference is. But I'm going to focus today on LinkedIn. So here are some points about why I think LinkedIn is important. Let's go through these. And we will get to a demo. We'll jump onto LinkedIn. I will show you LinkedIn, and I'll start to show you around LinkedIn and why I think it's a great platform for personal branding. LinkedIn is a great place to showcase your experience and your education. What we're going to see is on LinkedIn, you create a profile. And your profile page has a lot more information about you than your profile pages on other platforms. There's an about section where you can write a whole story. Hey, I'm Leonel. I migrated from Ecuador. Now I'm running a construction business. So you can say all that. Now you could post that on Facebook too, possibly on Instagram. But you know, on Instagram, let's use Instagram for example. There's just a very short section for your bio, right? So a lot of people resort to using a list of links here, read more about me. It's hard to say a lot about yourself on Instagram. It's all about the pictures or the stories or the videos. But on LinkedIn, you can write or have someone help you write a little section about you. There's also an experience section. So you can say, hey, here are some of the places where I worked. Here are some of the things that I did in the past. Employers and other business people who want to do business with you, they're interested in that. They want to know, well, what have you done in the past? That's a very standard question we get in the world of business and in the world of work. Now also LinkedIn, and this is where LinkedIn is similar to other social media platforms, is you can build credibility. What do I mean by that? Pinky says she does flowers. How do I know she's telling the truth? How can I trust that Pinky is going to make flowers for me? Well, she's sharing pictures of her creations.
Yeah, I make flowers. Besides flowers, I make
Yeah, you're making journals, bracelets.
Jewelry, I make lotion, soap, candles.
So all these products are things that we can show. But the difference with LinkedIn is if your business is not making products, if your business is writing code or some other kind of writing or doing administrative work, you can talk about that on LinkedIn. You can describe the kind of work that you did, who you worked for, what you accomplished on the job. So you can build credibility. People can learn about you and say, oh yeah, I see that. For example, they can see right away, oh, Pinky's been doing this for, how long did you say you're doing it? 2 years now? 4 years. 4 years. You're celebrating your 4th year anniversary?
Yes, next month. And this will be my
See?
my 6th.
Right? So Pinky could make a post on Instagram that says, hey, happy anniversary to me, it's 4 years. But on LinkedIn, that's actually in your profile. It says, oh, I've been running this business, right, since 2019. You actually have dates on LinkedIn. I'll show you that. I would say that third point, I really should have made the text on that third point much bigger. The main goal of LinkedIn and the main benefit is to make connections, to connect with other business people, with employers who might have jobs for you, with people whom you can learn from, with people whose work you enjoy following or reading about. That is the main goal of LinkedIn. And Maria, don't worry, we are going to share the slides. Pictures are fine, but we will share the slides. We're going to give you all 33 of these slides. Don't worry, we won't necessarily get to all 33 of them. But that is really the main goal, to build and grow your professional network. Can any of you think of some benefits of connecting with other people? What might be some of the benefits?
Well, with my business, I connect with other people because I did a makeup show, part of my business.
There you go. So there were other businesses at this show?
And I was at other business with my show. I did a makeup business, and then last year I did another show with my jewelry.
So that's a great example. Shows, what are known as trade shows or industry shows, or even events for the public, are events which bring together several businesses. Let's all get together and all pool our resources to advertise this event, to promote it, and we'll all post about it on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden everybody who's connected to us sees, hey, all these guys are having a show this weekend, right at the waterfront here in Newburgh, and there's going to be 40 vendors, and I'll be able to get makeup or buy candles or So you can collaborate with other business people. You can find clients. You can find employers or people who work at employers, so you can learn more about a place where you might want to apply for a job. Employers post job listings on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a huge job site. LinkedIn is becoming the biggest job listing site in the world, right? So that's why you can attract employers or clients or employees if you already have a business. Now, I don't know that there are a lot of construction workers hanging out on LinkedIn. That might not be the best place. But let's say you needed a bookkeeper for your business, or an accountant, right? Or an administrative assistant. You could connect to Nancy, right? Nancy say, hey, I'm learning skills that will enable me to become an administrative assistant, or a data entry clerk, or something like that. So maybe you need someone to start doing data entry for your business. You can find those people on LinkedIn. Here's some more points about LinkedIn. This is from a separate slideshow. When I train my clients and help them learn about LinkedIn, a big question is, why should I be on LinkedIn? Why? What's in it for me? Here are some reasons. In my slide deck, the first line doesn't say 900 million members. It says 900 million reasons. Right? Why should I be on LinkedIn? There are 900 million reasons, and it's growing. 900 million reasons to be on LinkedIn. So that's all people who are there to do business in some way, shape, or form. LinkedIn is purposeful. Leonel asked a great question. Oh, LinkedIn is kind of less about fun. Yeah, actually it is less about fun. It's more about business. Remember I said that with your personal brand, when you're putting yourself out there on a platform like LinkedIn, you're trying to be intentional. You're trying to make a specific impression. Well, on LinkedIn, everybody is like that. They don't just like, people post photos of their weekend, Saturdays and Sundays. You get more casual kinds of posts. People post fun things. I posted a fun video last week was Star Wars Day. I'm a Star Wars geek, sorry. I posted a Star Wars video, but it has to do with job interviewing, so I'll show it to you if you're interested. But yes, it's purposeful. It's all business. So the connections you make are professional, right? You're not just connecting with someone because, oh, I like your stuff, let's connect. You're connected with someone for a deeper meaning. Yeah, you have something in common. So for example, I connect with illustrators and artists, not just because I enjoy seeing their art in my feed, and people do, using the example of artists, they do post examples of their work. And if you're in construction, I know people who post pictures of their construction projects. I know people who make shoes, who post pictures of shoes on LinkedIn. So you can do all that, but it's all work. Like, here are the shoes that I make, Here's a custom pair that I made for a client. This guy, he sells really expensive shoes. But he's very successful on LinkedIn. So, but the reason I connect with artists on LinkedIn are two reasons. Number one, creatives are my clients. I like helping, as a career coach, I like helping creative people. But number two is, I used to myself be a creative, but I'm not anymore. So if if someone comes to me and says, hey, Ari, I need an illustration, I'm like, I no longer do that. I'm retired from illustrating, but I know someone who does. I can refer people. I can introduce people. Okay? Please excuse my language, but I'm going to say it. On LinkedIn, you have more control and see less bullshit than on any other platform. That's just my opinion. I've used Facebook. I use Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel as well. And I have YouTube. I'm not very successful on YouTube, but I know some very, very, very successful YouTubers. I have them as clients for my branding business. But the words I use are, there's much better signal to noise ratio, meaning more of what you see is relevant to your professional growth than on Instagram, on TikTok, or on Facebook. Now, on all these platforms, you can tailor your feed to some extent. You can say, you know what, I want to see more about, construction and less about, less about candles. Not that there's anything wrong with candles, right? But you could do that. But on Facebook and Instagram, those platforms control the feed, and they don't make it as easy. I didn't mention Twitter. I have a Twitter account too. Don't really use it much. Also on LinkedIn, you're providing what I call social proof of what you do. Social proof. Does anyone know what social proof is? Let's say I'm an employer. Let's say I need someone like Leonel. I need someone to do construction work for me. Leonel might be using platforms like Home Advisor or Angie. Those are good platforms. Or there might be reviews of Leonel on Yelp. But if I want to know a little bit more about Leonel's work history, I'll go to LinkedIn and say, let's see if Leonel has a LinkedIn profile that tells me how many years he's been in business, that tells me about the types of projects he's done, because that's the sort of thing you can write about. And because I like reading, so for me, that's a good thing. And maybe even Leonel has posted pictures, Now again, they might be on Instagram too, but you can do it on LinkedIn, and you can not just post, but you can write meaningful things about what you're posting. So those kind of things that we put out there, that we publish on platforms, on social media, are what are called social proof. It's proof that you are who you say you are, that you do what you say you do. You can also build trust. We'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation. That on LinkedIn, you can have conversations with people, even if you don't know them. Even if you're not connected directly to them, you can start conversations. I will show you how. And when people see that you're genuinely interested in them or in things that they're posting and they're sharing, they start to trust you. Right? And very important on LinkedIn, there are specific tools where you can collect recommendations, also known as testimonials, where you can list your skills and have people who can confirm that you have that skill. They can endorse those skills. They can say, yes, Nancy really is good at data entry because I've worked with her. And you can interact, right? You can interact with all those people, with people who share your skills, who share your professional interests. So all of these are good reasons to use LinkedIn. So let's switch to LinkedIn. Now, that guy in the corner might be familiar. So this is my account. When you first log into your account, what you're seeing is what's called a feed. Okay? It's called a feed. It's just like Facebook, just like Instagram, just like Twitter. I'm not as familiar with TikTok. Probably the same thing, right? It's a feed. Here's what's being published on the platform today. So the reason we'll scroll through and see things, and I'll tell you about them. But the center part of the window is what you want to focus on. This is the feed. So Stephanie owns a marketing company. She's one of my, as you can see, she's a first level connection. That means that she and I are connected to each other. It's kind of like being friends on Facebook, right? I've actually met Stephanie. I've spoken to her. And she made a post. Next, I'm seeing a recommendation by LinkedIn. You notice it says promoted. Promoted is kind of like an ad. It's kind of like an ad, but in this case, it's LinkedIn and this company, Switchboard. They're saying, hey, come follow us. And you can follow companies. You can follow, right? You don't just follow individuals on LinkedIn. You can follow companies. Next is another post by one of my first level connections named Raymond. Raymond is the CEO of a company in the Netherlands. That's Holland, for those of you who remember that name. We're not allowed to call it Holland anymore, according to them. He's the CEO. I actually met with him a couple of weeks ago. He was in New York. And he's posting about, he's posting about artificial intelligence, machine learning, very geeky stuff. But this is a good example of something that this would work on Instagram, right? He's talking about the legal market, technology that lawyers use, and how the legal industry is changing because of technology. That's very geeky, right? That sounds very complicated. But for a lawyer, LinkedIn is a great place to learn about this stuff. A lawyer's probably not going to learn about that stuff on Instagram.
I have a question. That feed is people that know you, or
We'll scroll. That's a great question, Leonel. You know what? Shame on me. I should have said that. I should have said that earlier. Whoops. Let's answer Leonel's question. There are two things you can see in your feed. Top, meaning posts that are getting attention, and you will tend to see posts by people you know first. You'll see more posts by people who are connected to you. Now, I have nearly 4,000 connections, so I see a lot of posts from people I know. But also, you can change this to just so recent, so you can change it to a chronological feed. And in this case, what I'm seeing is a different kind of post. Gina is a connection of mine. It just so happens so is Rachel. But even if Rachel were not a connection of mine, I might see this because Gina, who is a connection, commented on Rachel's post. Now, what I like about these types of posts, LinkedIn tells you that somebody you know commented on something. Right? So here's Barbara celebrating. I'll show you what celebrating means. Here's a company I follow. This is Score, right? So Score is an organization that helps people who are starting their businesses. So we have a Score chapter in the Hudson Valley. You can connect with them. They will help you for free. They will help you with your business, right? But that's again, I follow Score. Let's see if we can see something from someone who's not in my network. So as you can see, what you tend to see first are people you're following. And you can follow someone without being connected to them. So that's another way to to see things that interest you without necessarily making a connection. Following, let's look for something following, sorry. I'm scrolling fast, forgive me. Okay, here's another promoted, so this is basically an ad. You don't see too many ads on LinkedIn. Here's another company that I'm following. Here's another company. Oh, I'm going to be on their podcast, so that's why they're showing up. I'm looking at them first. Now, if we scrolling up, here we go. Here's an example. Okay, Dan. So here's an example. Here, this is a good example for all of you. I'm going to tell you why. Dan is a first-level connection of mine. The reason he's a first-level connection is we both work at the same company. So he and I work in the same company, so we've been connected on LinkedIn for many years. Okay? Dan shared, he reposted a post by this fellow, Timothy, whom I don't know. Timothy is a second-level connection. What does that mean?
Is friend of your friend?
Yes, he's a friend of a friend. Exactly right. He's connected to Dan, and Dan's connected to me. So from my point of view, Timothy, whom I never met, I didn't know that he's the chief technology officer at Moody's. That's the company where we work, by the way. But I didn't know that. But this is how I discovered. Oh, I just found out who the current chief technology officer at Moody's is. I didn't know that. That might interest me. I sometimes work with people from Moody's. I used to work at Moody's, so I still encounter people. Moody's is pretty big, so I still encounter people from Moody's. So that's an example of seeing a post by a friend of a friend, a second-level connection. I like how you said that. That's a better word. Okay? So again, things I'm following, things people react to. As you can see, there are different types of reactions, just like on Facebook. You can like something. You can celebrate. You can support it, love it, say that it's insightful, meaning that you learned something from it, or that it's funny. So funny posts are still okay. Now, anyone, you can react to anything in your feed. Even if you see a post by someone that says third. What's third? That's a third level connection. That's someone who's not connected to you or to anyone you know. It's someone who's basically not a friend. But maybe they're writing about a topic that interests you. Maybe you've decided to follow flowers. Maybe you've decided to follow data entry. Maybe you've decided to follow construction, right? So you might see posts about subjects that interest you. Yes, from people you don't know, right? So that's the feed. Let's quickly, we have 2 minutes left in this segment. Let's quickly show you the other main area of LinkedIn, and that's your profile. Now we will go into we will go into this further later, but this is my profile. On your profile, you get to showcase a picture. You get to give your name. You get to write what's called a headline, and I'm going to show you how to write these. In this class today, we're going to learn how to write these. This graphic, right? I made this graphic is about my book, of course, because I'm promoting my book. But you can make this graphic anything you want. You can take a picture of a nice, you can take a picture of one of your constructions, or you can use your flowers as turn those into, take a nice close picture with your phone and turn that into a background. So it's a cover image, just like on Facebook, right? And Twitter has cover images too, right? Here's where I'm from. I told you I'm from New Windsor. Here's my contact information. For those people who are connected to me, they can see, look at this, my phone number, my website, how to reach me, how to email me, my Twitter handle, all that is here, right? It shows you where I work. My company name is my name. So Ari M. Weinstein works at Ari M. Weinstein. Confusing, I know. But also where I went to school. My most recent degree. My most recent degree was a graduate degree, a business degree from NYU. I could show recruiters that I'm open for work. If I'm looking for work, I can turn on a setting on LinkedIn that says, I'm looking for work. And if you already have a job and don't want the people at your job to know that you're looking for work, you can change it so that only recruiters see that. Recruiters have a special kind of account on LinkedIn. It's called a recruiter's account. It's a different account, different tool. It doesn't look like this. Okay? That's, by the way, how LinkedIn makes most of its money. Selling data about people on the platform to recruiters and to companies. All right? This is private to me, this section. But here's my featured section. The featured section is where you can show a post that it's kind of like a pinned post, right? Here's a post that I made that I think you'll all enjoy. I feature my book, right? If you click here, it goes right to my book, right? There's my book. And this is how you can buy it. Right? In your featured section, you can feature pictures, right? You can feature a link to your website. Really anything. I also have a link to my calendar so people can book a call with me. And then there's my activity. What are the things that I've posted about, written about, commented on? Here's a whole section about me. Here's a nice whole long bio, right? Instagram's got nothing on LinkedIn when it comes to bio sections. Here's a really detailed biography about me, right? And my experience. Where have I worked and for how long? Well, I've worked for myself for, 37 years. You didn't see that. Right? But I work for a Creative Pro. They're these are really clients of mine, right? Creative Pro Networks. Mindful Talent, where I now help train other coaches, right, is one of my employers. I say employers in quotes because I work as a contractor. I'm not a full-time employee there. And then I have what's called an LLC. I have a business called REW Solutions. It's just a legally so that I have a separate entity under which to do my coaching. But I was a teacher at Wyzant. And then you could go and see more. I told you all that I worked for Moody's. It's like I don't see Moody's here. Well, scroll down far enough, and there we go. I was a vice president at Moody's. And that's where a lot of my experience being a career coach came from being a very successful hiring manager. I've been a hiring manager for over 20 years. And actually, I started career mentoring exactly 20 years ago in 2003. So that's how I eventually became a career coach. Okay, so that was a lot about LinkedIn, and we went over a little bit. But any questions? Let's pause here. Let's maybe take a little break, because we're an hour in.
As in other platforms, some people have 2 or 3 profiles.
Ah, very good
You
question.
can do that.
I'm going to show you something. In addition to my personal profile, I have a company page. I actually have 3 company pages. I used to have a startup. It failed, but the company page is still there. But here's my company page. So now, again, this is the admin view. This here, view as member. So if you look up Ari Weinstein and you land on the company page, this is what you'll see. It's not about me, it's about my company. So this is a way to have more than one profile. So your company can have a profile. Here's the very funny thing about LinkedIn. Probably one of the funniest facts. LinkedIn is a business network, right? I think we all agree. It's a professional network. Company pages on LinkedIn are terrible. They don't get interaction. People don't look at them. The main reason to have one is so that I can put my logo next to my experience. Because if I say that I worked for a company, that company has to have a page in order for the company's logo to show up next to that experience section. And it just looks more credible. If it's just one of these generic, building logos, it's like, who's this company? I've never heard of them, and they're not on LinkedIn. And it does let people learn a little bit about your company, where you're located, what industry you're in. See, I'm in the professional training and coaching business, of course, because here I am giving you some training. I don't know if it's professional. That's for you to judge. But so that partially answers your question. But you may have been wondering, well, can you have more than one profile page? Like, can Leonel have 2 pages? No. You can, but LinkedIn strongly discourages that. They really want you to have one page that's all about you. Just one. So you could set up additional pages. I was thinking briefly of setting up another Ari Weinstein page just to show you how one is set up. But I don't think we really have enough time for that. We might do that on the Saturday workshop where we have 3 hours. But it's a good question. You will very rarely encounter people, individuals, who have more than one LinkedIn profile. It's not necessary. LinkedIn discourages it. And LinkedIn, even for some people who did that, maybe they had one page for their side business and another page as an employee, LinkedIn gives you tools to consolidate those pages and turn it into one page. So more than one page is not common on LinkedIn for people, and it's discouraged. Okay? I have been talking for an hour. I suggest we take a short break. Does that sound like a good idea? That's fine. Don't worry. I'm going to make the slides available. I can answer your questions. Take what you do you. You do what you need to do. Don't worry about us. We'll take maybe a 5-minute break. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're going to start back up. So before we start, any questions about LinkedIn? It's a lot. It is a lot. And so let's focus on not being overwhelmed by LinkedIn, but making LinkedIn work for you. Because really, on any of these platforms, there's a million things that you'll see in your feed, and there are many parts of your profile that you have to fill out, and it can all seem overwhelming. But I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. what I work with my clients on is helping them use LinkedIn to make professional connections, to build a network. And I'm going to talk about that in the next few slides for the next.
It's a relationship that we create. As many as people as we met is better for us.
Correct.
Because we're social beings.
Yes, exactly. We're social beings. We have a saying in business that people don't buy from businesses, they buy from people. They don't do business with businesses, they do business with people. Let's use an example. Let's say you really, really like McDonald's. You like the food, you like getting McDonald's fries. I'm just using as an example. Pick your own favorite fast food. Now let's say you walked into a McDonald's and the people there were rude to you. Would you go back to that McDonald's? No, because people were rude. They made you feel bad. Even though you liked the food, you didn't have a good experience, right?
I don't think so. I worked in a restaurant for 20 years, remember? And I knew people that was mistreated and still come back to the restaurant because they love the mac and cheese, they love this and that. And meanwhile, like the last year, was very overwhelmed because he wanted to sell. He was mistreating people. He was yelling all the time. You can hear him yelling in the back and go to McDonald's. And still people was coming back. So I couldn't understand why they're still coming back. They being mistreated.
So that's a good counterpoint. People do tolerate a certain amount of mistreatment. They understand, oh, the server's rude to me. Maybe he's just having a bad day. I get it. It's not going to stop me from getting my Big Mac. But the fact is, if you're to create trust and repeat business, you have to connect with people.
Yes, like yesterday, I went only to pick up some food from Colombia restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Noche de Colombia. And I am in Spanish. I went to speak only the food. And the lady was with Ari to me, and then another lady too. And I said, well, what's wrong with these people? Because they understand Spanish, and I don't come in to get some services only to the food.
Right.
And I don't like the way they explain this.
Right. So it would be fair to say that you're less likely to visit them again?
No. I prefer to go to New Jersey.
Exactly. So you'd rather go somewhere where you're treated nice. All else being equal, I think we all prefer to be treated nice. It may be that there's only one restaurant where I can get that favorite dish and the people are rude. You know, there used to be a Seinfeld episode with a guy called the Soup Nazi, right? He served soup from a truck, but he was very rude. But he had the best soup, so everybody just kind of tolerated him. But all else being equal, if we have a choice, we prefer to meet people we trust. But let's get to actual practical reasons to connect with people. And that's that connections lead to jobs. Connections, making professional connections at companies where you want to work, or in your industry, or with other people who are doing what you do, is better. It's better than applying for jobs. Why? Because when companies are looking for people to hire, where do they look first?
Friends, family, people they know.
Correct. They start with people they know. Excellent, excellent point, Nancy, and 100% correct. There are people who have been career coaching and in the career. My industry is called the career services industry. It includes career coaches, recruiters, resume writers, people involved in human resources roles. There are people who have been writing about this for years, way longer than I've been in business. And they assure us companies still, to this day, look to people they know first. So the more people you know, you are increasing your chance of successfully finding work. It's just a fact. I'm not the only one. It is an opinion, but it's an informed opinion based on many people. There's a famous book out there. I'm going to mention this book. I should have listed it as a resource. It's called What Color is Your Parachute? It's a book that's been out for a very long time. In fact, the author of this book, even though the book was just updated for 2023, the author actually passed away in 2015. But this book is so well known that there's now a whole company that runs, that takes care of updating the content in the book. And right on page 11 of this book, right at the beginning of this book, he has a picture that says, here's how companies look for people, and here's how people look for jobs. And companies start from the inside and work out. People start from the outside and work in. Just start from the inside. Connect with people at companies you want to work with, and you stand a much better chance of getting a job. You still have to apply for a lot of jobs, perhaps, but getting to know people is really critical to the job search. And LinkedIn's main purpose is to help you make professional connections. I'll show you how. We'll jump back on LinkedIn. Now, when you connect with people, you increase your chances of getting a job. But I want you to remember that getting a job, getting work, is the result. It shouldn't be the goal. Now, it's okay to have a goal to want a job. That's a perfectly fine goal. But the reason I say this is because on LinkedIn, things don't happen like that. In other words, I might be on some other job site. Let's say Indeed. You've heard of Indeed.com? It's a big job board. On Indeed, you upload your resume, and you can hit apply and send that resume. The company will reach out to you and say, come in. Right? It's designed for like very quick, what I call transactional job search. On LinkedIn, it doesn't work that fast. So on LinkedIn, if you prioritize making connections, getting to know people, if you become curious about your industry and about other people who work in that industry, that can lead to great opportunities. But it's a result. It's not the main goal. It's not the main reason people are on LinkedIn. Don't get me wrong. People are on LinkedIn to look for jobs, and there's a whole job section. We didn't show it, but we'll jump into it. But know that if you focus on networking and on becoming genuinely interested in people, that can result in great professional connection. So that's just sort of my point of view about LinkedIn. Again, because LinkedIn, people find it takes time. They become impatient. They're like, I thought this is the #1 place to find a job. Yes, but you have to make connections first. The jobs are the result of being on LinkedIn. Okay? So how do you do it? How do you make connections? How to use LinkedIn? First of all, sign up for LinkedIn. It's free. Don't worry about your profile. We'll get to that. That's the next section of this workshop. Don't worry about your profile. Just look at your feed. That's why I showed you the feed to start. Just look at the feed. Start noticing what you see. Oh. Now again, LinkedIn will prompt you. It'll say, oh, fill out your profile. Tell us what your skills are. Write your work experience. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. It can take you days or even weeks to fill out your profile because LinkedIn really asks for a lot of information. They're basically asking for your resume. And if you don't have a resume, if you have a resume, you can copy and paste. If you don't have a resume, it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me 2 weeks. Don't feel overwhelmed. Just fill out the basic information. My name is Ari. I live in New Windsor. I'm a coach, I guess. Teacher? Maybe. So, again, you might struggle with some of the choices. What should I say I do? Okay, I'll say I'm a coach. Yeah, and I live in New York. Okay. Then go to the feed and do this. Do this. The first thing you should do is engage. Remember all those posts that we saw? Remember Raymond posted about legal technology? He's always talking about that stuff, by the way. I can joke about him. We're friends. Say, oh, look at his post, and if you find it interesting, like it or love it, or say, oh, that was funny. But then add a comment. That's what LinkedIn means by the word engagement. Engaging is not just reacting, not just hitting a thumbs up or a like, but also saying something. Say, oh, so for example, I'll give you like a real example from something Raymond wrote. Raymond says, oh, there's there's more investment this year in legal tech than there was last year. So I might write a comment, say, Raymond, why do you think last year was a slow year? Why do you think people weren't spending money on this? Like, what changed? What changed in 2023 that now they're spending more money? Like, I'm curious. When you become curious about what you're reading in the feed, and you write a comment, and by the way, the rule is write a comment that's 12 words or more. 12 words or more. So don't just say, great post, thanks, right? Say, hey, Raymond, what changed in 2023 that all of a sudden there's more spending on legal tech? What changed? Now, this might not interest you. I'm using this as an example. I used to be in that industry, in the legal tech industry, and that's how I met Raymond. And I'm genuinely interested in what he does. And he has really good data. He has good products and services. So I try to engage with his posts. Next, follow. When you are scrolling through the feed, you can hover your mouse or tap on your phone someone's image, the person who made the post, right? There's that little picture of them. And LinkedIn will have a follow button there where you can follow them. Actually, the follow button might also be on the right-hand side of the post, opposite their picture. So here's their picture, and over here will be a follow. Meaning, I want to see more of Raymond's posts. You don't have to connect with them. They don't have to become friends. You can just follow. Now you'll start seeing more from Raymond in your feed. So follow. After you engage and follow, only then is it advisable to invite Raymond to connect with you. You want to be like a friend request on Facebook, right? Let's connect, you know? And finally, the thing most people find the most overwhelming is posting. Well, good news. Posting is the last thing you need to do. You can be active on LinkedIn. You can make connections. You can find work. You can learn about your industry. You can learn things. You can entertain yourself, all without ever posting. The majority of LinkedIn users do not post. And LinkedIn is very different in that regard from other social networks. I don't have the exact statistics, but LinkedIn has, I think, the smallest percentage of its users who post compared to other networks. The smallest percentage. So a small percent of people on LinkedIn are responsible for the majority of the posts. You don't have to post. So if you want to post, you can. Pinky, go ahead, post your flowers.
I did that already.
You did that already, see? Pinky's ahead of us. Uh-oh.
I put it on my Instagram.
And you put it on LinkedIn.
And my YouTube channel.
Yep.
And my Facebook channel.
There you go.
And people already. I got people already.
I think that we had a question in the back. Is it?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ari. You're? Ivan. Oh, there you go. There was a little glare on that.
I had a question. Why do you think LinkedIn has less posts?
Good question. Ivan asked, why is it that LinkedIn has fewer people posting? Because LinkedIn is known to many people as a place to find work. So to find work, if you think about it, you don't actually have to post ever in order to find work. You can, we didn't show this yet, but you can browse the jobs section of LinkedIn, look for jobs, apply to jobs, talk to people. You can literally spend your whole day on LinkedIn never posting. So I think the reason fewer people post is because they don't have to, right?
They don't have to, or they have to be careful, because what you posted is going to be seen for whoever wants to maybe hire you or the connection.
That is true, and remember, so Nancy's bringing up a point that I made earlier before you joined us, Ivan, which is that LinkedIn is more purposeful. LinkedIn makes the job of posting takes a little more work than just, right? Instagram. Take a photo, click share, boom, post it to Instagram. I'm done. I can literally post to Instagram in like 2 seconds. It's not that easy on LinkedIn. there's more you have to do. There's a little more. So LinkedIn kind of slows down the process deliberately because of what Nancy just said. Very good point, Nancy, that they're more purposeful. It's like you're posting to people in your professional network. So really, what do you want to post? What do you want to say? We'll talk about that a little bit coming up. But very good point, Nancy. So does that make sense, Ivan? Okay. So if you are going to start connecting with people on LinkedIn, who should you follow? Right? Well, I suggest following, connecting with professionals in the field that you're in, or a field or industry that you're interested in. Maybe you're planning a career change. Maybe you're going from, like you are, Nancy, you're done doing restaurant work, now you want to do something else. So find the people in that new industry. That's actually a great assist. LinkedIn can assist you. It can help you transfer your skills from one industry to another. Because you can follow people in any industry on LinkedIn. And as you follow people, here's what's magical about LinkedIn. If I decide, I'm really interested in Pinky's business. I should learn more about flowers. Let me do a search for people who are into flowers and follow a few of them, a few of the people who are posting. Because you know what? I actually love seeing flower pictures. LinkedIn automatically will start showing me more content related to flowers. That's called training the algorithm. LinkedIn pays attention to your preferences. So follow and connect with professionals in the same industry. Now, you can join LinkedIn groups. LinkedIn has groups. Guess what, people? Another sort of shameful thing about LinkedIn. Facebook groups are much better. It's the one, I'm not on Facebook anymore. I used to be. It's the one thing I miss about Facebook. To me, groups were the best thing about it. Groups were interactive. Like, you could post a question and boom, get an answer like that. I mean, they were fantastic. LinkedIn groups, it depends on the group, but most of them are just dead. Even though you'll see, oh, there's 2,000 people in this group, like the last post was 3 months ago. It's like, what the heck? But there's one reason to join groups. There's one important reason to join groups. On LinkedIn, on a free account, you're limited to how many people you can reach out to. This is one way in which LinkedIn pushes you to pay for a premium account. Now, I have a premium account. Do not pay for a premium account. You don't need a premium account. Everything I'm going to teach you today, you can do with a free account, okay? You don't have to pay. But the one big restriction is on LinkedIn, you can only message people to whom you're connected. So even if you're following someone, you may not be able to message them. It depends on their settings. You might be able to message them. But the exception is groups. If you're in a group with someone, you can message them. That's the only reason to join groups, in my opinion, on LinkedIn. Yeah, go ahead.
I have different experience. I mean, my experience confirms everything what Ari is talking about, and my journey may be interesting illustration for you. Because when I relocated to this country, I had to find my spot, my niche, my brand, who am I? I had to reinvent myself. And first thing first, since I was in management field, business field last 20 years before I relocated, I tried to position myself with that. And I found in management and things, I found groups and tried to network there. Yes, this was a good feedback, good welcoming and good support, but not so good like in technology specific field. So it was a big experience and big eye-opening, which helped me pivot and remind myself that where I started was technology sector. The technology sector was way more supportive, way more welcoming. So when I was inconsistent talking about or reposting business subjects or business topics, like very low feedback, very low response. As soon as I started doing technology, it was like, oops, visibility raised and all my things, whatever I'm saying, people are sharing, and now they are reaching out to me based on my consistent messaging on branding. I bring people together on technology. That's my motto, my mantra. I bring together on technology. How do I monetize it? It's my business model, so nobody takes care of it. But this powerful model is really important. And people do offer the help. They do ask for help. And that's the opportunity for me to matchmake them together, to help them and take my space or percentage out of this or recognition out of this. So the groups or the technology specific was turned to be my favorite spot and helped me to make my decision. But LinkedIn, that was where I practiced and got this recognition. So my drive is technology, and LinkedIn helped me to confirm that.
Yeah, and that's really good to know. There are definitely some groups that are more active than others. For example, I was a member of 2 groups about Adobe Illustrator. One was an Illustrator learning group. So it was for anyone taking courses. You can take courses on LinkedIn, by the way. One was for people taking courses about Illustrator. Terrible group. It was dead. But the main Illustrator group, where just people post their art, is very active. And just by being a member of that group, you can connect and talk to. So I appreciate Yulia bringing that perspective and pointing out that some groups do work, but the vast majority of groups on LinkedIn don't. Nevertheless, it's still a worthwhile to join groups. And that's why I said there's gotchas, that they may be inactive, but there's a huge benefit that you can connect with people. Next, engage by commenting meaningfully on posts. We already covered that, right? When you see a post, don't just say, oh, great post. Say what you liked about it. Start a conversation. Ask a question. And LinkedIn is very encouraging of that kind of behavior. Send personalized notes with connection invitations. When the time comes to connect, LinkedIn will suggest people say, oh, Janine, you used to work at Acme Corporation. Maybe you know Bob and Linda and Shaniqua, because they worked at Acme too. So it'll suggest to you, people, oh, you probably know these people, right? Because you all worked at Acme there, on Front Street in Newburgh. Okay, so you can click connect. And then Bob and Linda and Shaniqua might say, oh, well, I remember Janine. Yeah, I'll accept that connection request. But there's the option on a desktop computer. You'll get a pop-up that says, do you want to add a note? So Janine can add a note. Say, hey, Bob, remember me? We both worked at Acme. That's advisable. That's a best practice to add a note. On mobile, you don't get that, but you can follow up with a note. You can jump onto their profile and then message them. When you're trying to connect, you can add a note. It says, personalize this request. I can show you how to do that if there's time. But sending a note is preferable. And finally, you can post and reshare relevant content. And remember I said posting is the last thing you have to do? One thing that's easy to do is if you see something that you liked and you think other people who are connected to you would benefit from seeing it, people in a group that you joined, you can repost. There's reposting and resharing on LinkedIn. They finally got around to implementing it correctly. Resharing is where you make a comment and then it shows the other person's post. Reposting is just a straight, it's like a retweet on Twitter. Okay? So these are further ways to connect. All right. So that brings us to personal branding on LinkedIn. So that was all about connecting. We're moving fast. We're moving fast, people. So, okay, personal branding on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really perfect for the brand called you. Now, I showed you some of that earlier, and I want to walk you through a profile. We kind of did that earlier, but let's jump back. Let's jump back in, and I'll show you everything that you can showcase, and then we'll come back, and we'll talk about. So I'm just going to jump to my profile. When you click your own name, it shows you your profile. As you can see, there's quite a lot that you can share on LinkedIn. A cover image, a photo. And by the way, Unlike other social networks where you put a logo or whatever, you should put a picture of yourself. Okay? People who decline to share a photo on LinkedIn see 21 times less engagement. So just adding a photo, a nice photo of yourself, you can have a friend take it if you don't know how to take a good selfie. A pleasant, that's a professional photo. You know, I paid for that, but anyway. But having you don't have to pay for a professional photo. There are plenty of people who can take nice photos of you. You all know somebody in your family, oh, you take good photos, you take a nice picture of me. You just stand against the wall. That's it, easy. Take it. But literally, people who, once you post a photo, 21 times more engagement. It's that dramatic. Not having a photo makes people not trust you. By the way, you can choose to only display the photo to your connections. If you don't want, because LinkedIn is, after all, a public network, right? If you don't want your photo out there for everybody to see, you can say, you know what, only show my photo to my connections. That's okay. That's your choice. But don't leave out a photo. A professional headline, which we'll go into next. This is a professional headline. People's attention. Okay? Get the career opportunities you deserve. I'm a branding coach. I can help you get the career opportunities you deserve. You can feature things, including your work or posts or pictures. Anything that you want to share can be featured. Your activity as you connect with people or comment on their posts, it will be shown to others. You can write about yourself in the About section. You can share your work experience. What we didn't do before is scroll down. Past the work experience, what do we have? Licenses and certifications. These are courses I took on LinkedIn, but I have 14 licenses and certifications. Don't be intimidated by that. Some of these are 20-minute courses on LinkedIn. But as you can see, I have my coaching certificate from Mindful Talent. I have a couple of management certificates from the American Management Association, right? And I used to be a member of AIM. Let's go back. You can also show what you do as a volunteer. Here's my volunteer work. This is work I still do. I'm a volunteer career coach in addition to being a paid career coach. Misty Harbor doesn't have a company page. That's why you see just a generic icon for them, okay?
For example, it says like, there, volunteer career coach. It says like, you started in December 2014 present, 8 years, 6 months. That update by itself, or you have to be like editing every time?
No, it calculates it for you. So if you don't put an end date, LinkedIn assumes you still work there. I actually haven't worked with Footsteps in a while. We were going to do an interview workshop, but they canceled it. So I should probably end that job because I just haven't volunteered with them in a long time. But Footsteps celebrated its 20th anniversary, so we're happy for them. They're helping people. And then look, skills. What are your skills? You get to choose. What are your skills? What are you good at? And people can endorse those skills. You see these endorsements? 37 people agree that, yes, Ari is good at career development coaching. 63 people agree that Ari is good at business analysis. That's really part of my former career where I spent 20 years, so yeah. Right? But there are more. You can showcase up to, I think, 50 skills. I have too many. Nobody cares. Right? Here's what's really important. Recommendations. These are recommendations that were given to me. Michelle Armstrong is the co-founder of Mindful Talent Coaching Academy, where I work as a mentor. I train other coaches. We just had graduation on Monday, so I graduated 3 coaches. And we graduated 40 students. So we have 40 new certified life coaches from Mindful Talent. Congratulations to them. Barry was a customer. Curtis was a customer. And I have 18 recommendations here. I actually need some new ones. Publications. Well, yes, I've written my book. I've written articles. have contributed. Your project, you can create projects if all you do is work on projects instead of, for an employer. So if you're a freelancer, right? If you're a freelancer, you have your own business and you've done projects, you can showcase projects. Question in the back.
Yes, I know that LinkedIn can take these tests for your skills.
You can,
to,
yes.
like, show, like, and it says that it makes a big difference. How much of a difference does that actually make?
That's a good question. I'm sorry to say I don't know the answer. I suspect that different recruiters treat it differently. That, in other words, it depends on the employer. But I would remember that question because that is a great question for you to ask people who are in recruiting and staffing. So let's be clear. I'm a career coach. I've never actually worked in recruiting or staffing. So I've never worked in a staffing agency or an HR department. I've never done direct recruiting. So I think it depends on the recruiter and the employer, but it's a great question to ask. For certain skills, you all are here in the HV Tech Academy studying technology skills. What we've heard, for example, when we ran the Tech Festival, the first Tech Festival in 2019, we had a roundtable of employers. And you know what they told us? They said, you know what? It's great that you're all getting certified in technology, people in the audience, but our certifications don't matter as much. Your certifications don't matter as much to us as what we can teach you because we want to train you to do things our way. So if you know C++, great. If you know JavaScript, great. If you know Python, great. But you're still going to have to study to learn how to do that. That might get you past the first gate. And that's also what I suspect is that these certifications, they help you move further along in the hiring process, but they're not a determinant as to whether you'll get ultimately being hired is up to an interview.
And you got your personal messages popping up.
At least it doesn't say nothing.
No.
Inappropriate.
Yeah, no. Lexi is someone who does publicity. She helps people get featured in publications. So we're in negotiation. She wants to hire me as a client. In other words, she wants me to hire her. Right?
That's something to the previous question asked. It's pretty much depend. And you have to, your skill set, your certifications and such. If you're talking about the learning which LinkedIn plugged in or acquired a few years ago, the answer would be it depends. And the assessment in technology field, which is coming through LinkedIn, is not worth, or sometimes it's just the opposite against what it is in the technology.
Yeah.
This is very specific feedback coming from the experts. For example, the experts from JavaScript, they say like, this is disaster, this is no-go.
Right.
Okay, but some of those might come from the relevant field. Technology specific, if you want to be assessed through LinkedIn, be very accurate about that. If you do obtain certifications through something else and you want just to cross-post or post, that's actually the great benefit for you. As soon as you obtain the OpenHub certificate, just post those certificates. As I said, we're not giving you only the paper, we're giving you the image which you can post on your LinkedIn. And
You can put that in your featured section when you get your certificate from Open.
Even I have my OpenHub certification on my LinkedIn.
Yes.
So
And you recently posted another one which you're bragging about and you're doing great things. But posting this as a certificate, as an imager and feature thing is one thing. But you can also add this as a skill at your bottom
Yes.
of your profile. So you see one thing serves many.
Multiple purposes. Also, I love the point Yulia made regarding the type of certification. That's an excellent point that I left out, which is, yes, LinkedIn can test you for basic skills. For example, I passed an Illustrator assessment on LinkedIn. Big deal. That's not what counts. If you're going to be an expert in Illustrator, you want to get the certification from Adobe. Adobe publishes Illustrator and has a full educational program for people to become certified experts in Illustrator. They actually have 2 levels of every certification. So that's going to have a lot more weight in a hiring decision than LinkedIn saying, oh yeah, Ari seems to know Illustrator. I answered like 10 questions, big deal. I've been using Illustrator for 30 years, so it wasn't hard.
I would not rely on that.
Yeah, so I would not rely on it. Yeah, that's a good point. But it could get you past the first gatekeeper. You know, that first person who looks at your resume and says, "Oh, well, should we choose this?" Oh, yeah, okay. They passed the LinkedIn screening, so that's a good thing. Let's move on to the next level of process.
Let me loop it back to what Ari was talking about, the personal branding, your personal consistent messaging. If you want to be recognized as the expert of matter in the specific field, so your messaging shall be very consistent. You obtain certificates, okay, you post these certificates in your featured section, you post certificates in your feed. You also add the skill on the bottom, and also when you post it on your feed, you can tag the experts, or you can tag people who issued you those certificates. You can tag your students, your peer partners here, and this way you tell them, hey, please give me thumbs up, right? And they can give you the reference and
Yes.
whatever it is. You see how you're leveraging one in one fact, or whole fact about you in multiple directions.
Yes.
You're growing your network, you're growing your authority.
Yep. That is a great point. That is a very good word to remember, the word authority, that building your network builds your authority. And on LinkedIn, let me add one thing about endorsing skills. When you say, well, I studied, Python, get endorsed by someone who taught you, right? Or who was in the same class with you. Oh, yeah, we graduated together. Yeah, we did a group project. I did a group project with Ari. He was really good at it. So, yeah, because LinkedIn's going to ask that person, if Yulia's going to endorse me for Python, LinkedIn's going to ask Yulia, how can you endorse Ari for Python? Did you work with him? Did you observe his work? So they ask you. So you have to be able to say yes. So the endorsement, LinkedIn is trying to make the endorsement more credible. And that is, I went back to this slide about connecting. This is the reason to network. This is the reason to connect. Because the people you connect with can be witnesses to your skills. They can confirm that you know something you say you know. And that's why the net effect is that people on LinkedIn are a little more believable.
So each time when you deal with experts of matter, what people do, they just attend their webinars and such, and then they post about this, they make quota, and just like, hey, I attended this, thank you, Ari, this was a great workshop, I attended this workshop, it was cool, thumbs up, they tag Ari, and Ari would be tagging back or just saying something, bringing your social, what do you call it, score, social
Yes.
points up. This is interesting perspective. I've seen people building up from like not being expert of matter, just attending and tagging those experts that they want to associate with. This is the strategy.
Yes.
You have the luxury to tag OpenHub and tag us and your classmates and instructors, because these instructors will give you thumbs up and you will keep building your.
Exactly. LinkedIn notices every action that you perform on LinkedIn, whether it's liking something, commenting, adding a skill, getting an endorsement, tagging or being tagged. All these things matter. And as you can see, I think that further answers your question, Ivan. You can see there's so much that you can do on LinkedIn without ever posting. It's like you don't have to.
Kind of like that saying, little things matter.
Yeah, those little things matter and they all add up. That's really what I like the way Yulia is describing that. Really, it adds up.
And focus.
Yes.
So it's very purposeful, very focused. On Facebook, I can talk about my hobby, my vacations, my tango, and such. But on LinkedIn, I will talk only about my expertise, the one I want to be recognized with, the one I want to be hired with, or network with.
Yep.
Period. I'm very
Exactly.
focused.
So we have 10 minutes, and I do have something fun to do in the last 10 minutes. And that is to teach you how to write a 10-second introduction. A 10-second introduction. In my book, I call this a 10-second commercial. Of course, it is a little bit of a commercial. What is a 10-second introduction and why does it matter? Your LinkedIn headline has enough room for you not just to give your name and what you do. You can say something meaningful. And when you say something meaningful, it makes people interested in you. It makes them want to read more. and learn more about you and connect with you and talk to you. So I'm going to give you a formula. So a 10-second introduction, which, by the way, even people who are not studying with me to learn about LinkedIn, I teach them how to give a 10-second introduction, how to write and deliver a 10-second introduction. So it's great for networking, too. It's not just good on LinkedIn. For this presentation, I said it's perfect for LinkedIn, and it is. So what is a 10-second introduction? Let me give you mine. I'm Ari Weinstein, a career development coach. I help people strengthen their personal brands so they can land new jobs. 10 seconds. Sounds good, right? I had to practice that. Say who you are. Your name, your title. I'm Ari Weinstein, a career coach. What do? I help people at the HV Tech Academy with their personal branding so that they can find new work opportunities. So, we're talking about you. You're talking about what you do and why it matters. Don't just tell me what you do. Tell me why it matters, what impact your work has. Believe it or not, that can all be fit into a 10-second introduction and into a LinkedIn headline. I'm going to give you examples. Hey, who's this funny-looking guy? Yeah. This is 10 seconds. I've timed myself. I can say this in about 8 seconds. I'm a coach. I help career professionals strengthen their personal brand messaging so they can find new opportunities at work. I might change that for different audiences. When I'm speaking to a corporate audience in a job site, I'll say, at a company, I'll say, you can find more opportunities right here, right at your company, at work. Or I might say, you can find new opportunities in your community, right? If you want to work here in Newburgh, or you want clients here in the Hudson Valley. Here's another example. I call this guy Rodrigo. I don't actually know his name. It's just a stock. Now, this is an example worth studying. Why? So many of us who are studying technology, we finish a program like OpenHub's program, and we come out of it with technical expertise. And maybe there's even a name now for what we can do. Maybe we've become a software engineer, a data expert, a tech analyst, right? These names that we have for different professions and different skills, they sound impressive, but they don't tell you a whole lot. So let's focus on this for a minute. Rodrigo is a paralegal. I think we can all agree that if you've met a paralegal, right away, just you hear the word paralegal, oh wow, I understand that takes a lot of study, and oh my gosh, you have to work with lawyers. That sounds tough. So right away, we have an idea in our mind of what a paralegal is. But we don't actually know what they do or why it matters. What Rodrigo is saying is, I'm a litigation support paralegal, right? I specialize in litigation support. Litigation is, lawsuits, right? I partner with attorneys to make their discovery work more efficient and less expensive. Discovery is all the research that attorneys have to do. They have to interview witnesses, and they have to gather evidence, and they have to get the information from the police, right? Or they have to take depositions. That's called discovery. It's one of the most expensive parts of the whole legal process, discovery. This is why, George Santos has been indicted, but it's going to take another 18 months before he goes to trial, because now all the attorneys have to do discovery. Rodrigo helps with that discovery, and he helps make it more efficient and less expensive. Very cool, right? What a great introduction. I wrote that. Here's another one. Here's Vanessa. Vanessa's a video game developer. Again, you hear video game developers, oh, that's cool, right? You might not even let Vanessa finish her 10-second introduction. Say, well, what games did you make? Which game studio do you work for? That's exciting. But Vanessa is careful to introduce herself, and again, this can be her LinkedIn headline. I'm a video game developer. I design in-game features that keep players I don't know why keep is bold, sorry. That keep players engaged, so they're more likely to finish quests and join multiplayer campaigns. Why does that matter? Because the game studios want you to keep playing the games. They want you to say, this was a great game. Let me go buy another one from the same studio. Or let me join a multiplayer version of this game. because then I'm going to be paying, you know, $5 a month to play. So Vanessa is not just saying that she's a video game developer. She's saying specifically what she does as a video game developer and why it matters. It's great for the players. It's great for the company. And Vanessa is promoting herself very well here on LinkedIn. You too can write a 10-second introduction. Now, I don't know if we'll get to the rest of this. I don't think so. So that's your 10-second introduction. You will get these slides. These slides give you examples, and I'm happy to help any of you for free write your 10-second introduction or your LinkedIn headline. Okay? You can reach out to me. The last slide is my contact information. You can contact me. Let me quickly go through what other material is in this slide deck, because you're going to get these slides, and I wanted you to come away from this workshop with more than just listening to me, as much as I love to talk. The next slide is about connecting people, identifying your value, finding what other people value. So when you're looking on LinkedIn, think about what are things that you care about, right? So for example, Leonel, in construction, perhaps you care about craftsmanship. Perhaps you care about fine workmanship. These are words, right? You can do a search on LinkedIn for those words. Right, or something specific. Let's say you're really interested in learning more about, let's say it's something practical. Let's say you're really interested in learning about foundation pouring. You know, you've been hired to do foundation work, foundation pouring, foundation repair. You can do it. Remember, LinkedIn has a powerful search function. I didn't show it, but you'll find it. It's easy to use. You can search for foundation repair. You can search for any topic that interests you. These are things that you care about, things that you value. The people who are then posting about those things or who have those things in their profile, those are people with whom you share values. Those are people you can connect with. Your values, someone else's values, if they're the same, that's where you connect. There are hashtags on LinkedIn too. So you can look at their hashtags, you can look at their activity section. Sharing what you know. If you want to post content on LinkedIn, just share what you know, or repost things that grabbed your attention that you found interesting, right? Develop topics. Decide how frequently you want to post. Decide what types of posts. You can post original things, but you can also repost and reshare. And in all of this, be authentic. Just be yourself. Don't try to be someone else. Be yourself. I had here 10 minutes about monitoring and measuring success. LinkedIn presents you with statistics, and you'll find them on the platform, but it shows you, for example, how many people have viewed your profile. Even if you're on a free account, it will say, oh, you've had 10 profile views in the last few days. Now, it'll only show you, I think, the views from the last 5 days or something. If you're on a free account, it shows you a limited number. But, if I go to that section of LinkedIn and it shows me, oh, Joe looked at your profile. I'm like, who is Joe? Oh, Joe is the head of the library at Poughkeepsie. Maybe he was looking at my profile because he saw that I posted about giving a class at the Newburgh Library. Maybe Joe wants me to give a class at his library. Let me contact Joe. Just an example. You can schedule your activity. That's a new feature on LinkedIn where you can schedule your posts. I think you have to have a creator account to do it. I'm not sure. I have a creator account. Don't worry about the account type. Just build a profile. There are what's called vanity metrics and results. It's very nice when 1 million people see your post. But what are the actual results that matter? I would say if you are having meaningful conversations with people, and if they connect with you, if they say, Nancy, I really love that comment that you made on my post, let's connect, that's a result you can bank on. You're building your network. So again, I teach people how to find statistics on LinkedIn, how to track things on their own. I was going to give a conclusion. The conclusion is, here's what we learned, what personal branding is. We learned all about LinkedIn. We talked about why it's important to build your network and how you can build your brand, because there's so many different parts of your profile that you can share with the world. Your skills, your experience, your picture, featured work, your certifications. Like you, why did I not think of that? Shame on me. Thank you, Yulia, right? When you get your certificate, put that in your featured section. How to track your activity and results. Again, we didn't get to that, but that is something you can, I work with people and show them how to do. I had a few minutes here for Q&A. We're just about out of time. I've given you bonus content here. Remember I talked about the 10-second introduction? What if your 10-second introduction was so good that someone said to you, tell me more? You'd be like, oh, no, I don't know what to say. So you can develop what's called a PAR story, which is, here's a problem that I was faced with in my business. Here's what I did, and here was the result. Okay. And you can talk about a result that you're proud of. I give an example from my business, and I show the top two sentences are the problem, and there's the action that me and the client took, and the last yellow sentence is the result. How to tell an even longer PAR story. For example, at a job interview, you're going to have more than 30 seconds. By the way, that 30-second commercial, that's what some people call an elevator pitch. And in 30 seconds, believe it or not, there is time in 30 seconds to tell a complete story. Beginning, middle, end. Problem, action, result. Those are the best elevator pitches. Because it tells a story, and people remember stories. But if you have to say even more, if you have to go into more detail, for example, at a job interview, I teach people how to do that. I give an example. Here's a longer story. Here's an example of a longer story. So you'll get this example. This is very similar to an example I have in my book. So you don't have to remember. And finally, I want to leave you with a star. Does everybody know what a star message is? Something to always remember. What's something to always remember? You are more than what you do. You know, we talked so much about LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is all about being professional and showcasing your work. You're more than what you do. What are things you care about? What are things that excite you? What do you love talking about? You can share these things on LinkedIn. Here's some really good news about LinkedIn. Not everybody agrees this is good news. Many, many people have joined LinkedIn in the last 2 years. There's been a huge upsurge in use. And many of those people are younger. And they're putting more personal things on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is starting to look a little bit more like Facebook and Instagram. And the people who have been on LinkedIn for a long time are like, whoa, what's this? This is not professional content. But that doesn't matter, because that generation, that's going to be the next generation of people who are going to be in the workforce. Let's let them be them. Be you. Be authentic on LinkedIn. That's my message to you. You're more than what you do. Tell me what else I might be interested in knowing about you. And I can tell you this as a hiring manager with over 20 years of experience. I'm constantly trying to learn more about the people I hire. The more I learn, the more interested I become in you, and the more likely I am to invite you in for an interview, for an opportunity, or to become your client. I hope you appreciated and enjoyed this workshop. Thank you for sitting here for 2 hours and listening to me prattle on.
And thank you so much. I believe, yes, Dr. O, you can make a connection to Ari on LinkedIn.
Hey, I'm easy to find. rew.com. I have a 4-letter domain. If anyone wants a sticker, let me know. I have stickers.
And